Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Myself Kushi.D from Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering. So today's topic is selection control in user interface design. So today we will be discussing about selection control in UID. So introduction to selection control in user interface design. Selection control is a crucial aspect of user interface design. It allows users to make choices and interact with the system. Proper selection control ensures a seamless and intuitive user experience. Importance of selection control. Selection control helps users navigate through various options. It provides feedback and guidance to users during the selection process. Well-designed selection controls enhance user satisfaction and efficiency. Types of selection control. In types of selection control, there are mainly three types. They are checkboxes, radio buttons, and drop-down menus. So moving on to the checkboxes, allow users to select multiple options simultaneously. That is, like when we are selecting the options, the checkboxes is made for selecting multiple options simultaneously. So moving on to radio buttons. Enable users to choose only one option from a set of mutually exclusive options. So when we are using radio buttons for selecting, so in this we will be able to select only one options from many. So the difference between checkboxes and radio button is in checkboxes we will be able to select multiple options, whereas in the radio buttons we will be able to select only one option. Moving on to the third one, that is drop down menus. Present a list of options that users can select from. So drop down menus is nothing but we will be able to select list of options from the parent option. So considerations for checkbox selection control. Use checkboxes when user can select multiple options. Clearly indicate if a checkbox represents an option that is enabled or disabled. Provide visual cues to show the selection status of checkboxes. So checkboxes, why checkboxes should be used? So sometimes we will be able to select only one option. So at that time if we use checkbox, it will make no sense. So at that time we are supposed to use radio buttons. So that's why we have to have some considerations for checkbox selection is when the user have to select multiple options. So in that case we have to use checkboxes. So moving on to the next slide, we have considerations for radio button selection control. So use radio buttons when users can choose only one option. Group radio buttons together to represent a select set of mutually exclusive options. Clearly indicate the selected option to avoid confusion. So as I told you all in the previous slide, radio buttons are mainly used when we are selecting only single option. Like suppose we have a person likes coffee, tea, milk, something like that. So if they want to select only one single option, so at that time we have to select radio button. So if we select check boxes here, it will not make any sense. So radio buttons is specifically used only when the user have to select one single option. So in that time we will be providing radio buttons. So in this slide we will be discussing about considerations for drop-down menu selection control. Use drop-down menus when there are numerous options to choose from. Display a default option to set the initial selection state. Ensure the drop-down menu is easily accessible and visible to users. So here why drop-down menu is when there are numerous options to choose from. That is when there are many options that we have to choose. So at that time we can use drop-down menu to make it simple, and to avoid confusion we will be using drop-down menus. So in this slide we will be looking to visual feedback for selection control. Provide visual cues, example color change, highlighting to indicate selected option. Use contrasting colors to differentiate selected and unselected options. Consider using animation or transition effects to enhance the feedback. So in this slide, what we are trying to tell is, suppose a person has selected few options. So there has to be some differentiate between the selected and unselected options. So in that case, this differentiate is done by highlighting or color change. And even in suppose check boxes, a person has selected some three different options. So to make that as highlighting, we will be using some color change options. So this is the visual feedback for selection control. Next we have is interaction feedback for selection control. Provide auditory feedback, example sound effect when users make a selection. So here what we are trying to tell is, suppose when a person is selecting has 5 options, out of which he is selecting the first option in the check boxes. So when he select an option, uh, there will be some sound like tick sound, some sound effect will be there, so that he will get to know that he has selected an option. So use haptic feedback, example vibration, to provide tactile response. And we can also give some vibration effects as well, so that the user will get to know. Clearly communicate the selection status through text or icons. Or sometimes when the user has selected some option, he will get a text message saying that you have selected so and so options, or some icons. So this is nothing but the interaction feedback for selection control. Next is placement and layout of selection controls. Position selection controls in proximity to the related information. So what is this is, suppose there is a question and below that we have to give the selection what the user has to select. So what position select controls in proximity to the related information means, the positioning of the control, that is checkboxes, radio buttons or menu drops, should be properly aligned after the related information. So then the user will be having the clear cut idea. Then we have as group related selection controls together for better organization. Consider the natural reading or scanning patterns of users when placing control. So next we have is accessibility considerations for selection control. Ensure selection controls are accessible to users with disabilities. Provide alternative text for non-textual selection control. Support keyboard navigation for users who cannot use a mouse. So here what we are telling is, suppose if some person is having some disabilities, we have to make sure by providing some options even they are able to access it. And some people will not be able to use the mouse, so they need to have some navigation methods by using keyboard, so that even they will be able to use the options. So next we have is best practices for selection control design. Keep the number of options in selection controls manageable to avoid overwhelming users. So we need to have number of options should be appropriate. We cannot have very large number of options. Then we have is use clear and concise labels for options to avoid confusion. So when we are using some labels for the options what we have given, it needs to be clear and concise. We cannot give some label for some topic. So which will not make sense and which will lead to confusion for the users. Prioritize the most commonly used options for easier and faster selection. Next we have is example of effective selection control design. Display checkboxes with clear labels for filtering products by color. Use contrasting colors to indicate selected options. Provide a select all option for convenience. Sometimes when we are using the checkboxes, there are suppose five options. The checkboxes is used for selecting multiple options. So if the user wants to select all the options, instead of clicking 5 times, if they have the option called select all, it would be more convenient for the users. It will be saving the time. And here for the labels we can give different colors and we can highlight it by different colors for more convenient and better experience. Next we have is example of ineffective selection control design. Using checkboxes when only one option can be selected. Poorly aligned radio buttons that lead to confusion. Drop-down menus with too many options make selection difficult. So what we are trying to tell is, as I told in the previous slide, when the user has to select only one single option, and if we are giving an option of checkboxes where multiple options can be selected, so which is absolutely makes no sense. So which is an not good for the developer to do that. So using checkboxes only one option can be selected is not a right thing. So at that place we need to give radio buttons. Next is poorly aligned. So the alignment also should be taken care, and drop down menus should not have too many options, which will actually lead to confusion and will be difficult for the users to select. So these are some of the key points to be kept in mind. Next we have is testing and iteration for selection control design. Conduct usability testing to gather user feedback on selection controls. Iterate and refine the design based on user feedback and observations. Continuously monitor user behavior and make adjustments as necessary. Conclusion. Selection control plays a practical role in user interface design. Proper design enhances user experience, efficiency, and satisfaction. Following best practices and considering user feedback lead to effective selection control design. So main thing is in this selection design is experience, efficiency, and satisfaction of user is very important. So thank you for watching my video. Please do like and share.